This person has distanced themselves. You noticed this even before the silence began. It was in the tone, in the delay to respond, in the way their gaze no longer carried the same weight. It wasn't a breakup. There was no clarity. It was a retreat. This person wanted you to understand on your own. They wanted you to ask. They wanted you to pursue. But without the courage to express what they were feeling. You tried to understand. You tried not to force it. You tried to stay. But you had already stayed too long. And when you stopped, this person left. Without closing the door. Without saying, "It's over." Without being sure if that was really what they wanted. Because they didn't want to. Not completely. They just didn't know how to be there anymore. They no longer knew how to be transparent. They no longer knew how to hold everything they felt. This person is still waiting, not with words, but with thoughts, with memories, with that kind of waiting that masquerades as indifference. You feel this now and then. This person's name pops into your mind, sometimes for no reason, sometimes when you least expect it, and you realize it's not over, that something remains unresolved, that the absence was never total absence. It was a test, a silent plea, a poorly disguised hope. This person hopes you will return, even though they made a point of leaving, even while pretending to be okay, even without saying it. This person has not moved on. You know this, you feel it, you still carry this bond within you, and no matter how much time passes, this person still keeps the door ajar, not out of distraction, but because they want to, because they need to, because deep down they believe you might come back. Have you felt this before? Comment, "I needed to hear this." You noticed. It wasn't a surprise, it was like a slow leak. You felt the distance trickling through the conversations, the gazes, the silences that used to be comfortable, and that now have started to hurt. This person said nothing at the beginning, but you noticed. The presence has changed. The responses came with less weight. The desire felt restrained, as if something was being suffocated, as if there were no more space to feel, or perhaps as if feeling had become unbearable. You noticed all of this before the separation even happened, and no matter how hard you tried not to show it, something inside you knew that person was leaving. But the body was still there, the voice sometimes, the messages, less frequently, the touch rare. And then the absence came full force, without warning, without courage, without truth. That person chose to step away, out of pride, out of fear, out of exhaustion, or maybe because they didn't know how to continue. But it wasn't definitive, it wasn't a clean break, it didn't have the strength of a cut. It carried the cowardice of a cautious abandonment. That person wanted you to notice, not the reason, but the effect. They wanted you to feel the absence, to reach out, to break the silence, to take action. But you had already done that before. Multiple times you had already carried the relationship alone. You had come back after departures. You had forgiven what wasn't acknowledged. You had insisted when everything screamed, "Let go." And then you stopped. And the silence became definitive, but only from the outside, because inside, something still pulses. That person is still waiting. You feel it. You don't dream for nothing. You don't remember by mistake. You don't think without reason. That person left traces, not just in places, but within you, in the body, in the scent that you still recognize in things that no longer belong to you both. That person didn't say goodbye for real. They just distanced themselves, hoping you would come back stronger, with more presence, with more certainty, with more proof. But that person didn't understand that you got tired, that loving alone comes at a high cost, that insisting becomes a burden, that trying to save what only you hold breaks you inside. And even so, you still feel. You try to move on. But some days the memory betrays you. There are places that hurt. There are songs that hurt. There are scents that bring back memories. There are words you wish you had said. This person is far away, but they haven't freed themselves. They've only gone silent. They've only frozen what still lives. Because it lives, even in silence, even in absence, even disguised as indifference. This person observes, maybe from a distance, maybe in secret, but they observe, they look for signs. They wait for some message from you to break this time. This person hasn't moved on, they haven't dealt with it. They've only distanced themselves, like someone who throws dust on a wound, hoping it will disappear. But a wound doesn't vanish. It screams when the soul is quiet. It throbs when night falls. It speaks into the void. This person still wants you, even if they don't say it. Even if they've done everything to seem strong, even if they've moved on with someone else, even if they frown when they see you, you notice. It's evident in their gaze, in the hesitation, in the name that still slips out, in the way this person shuts down when the topic is you. You're not mistaken, this person is still waiting. Waiting for you to show up, for you to say something, for you to prove something, for you to give back what this person themselves took from you. But maybe you don't want to go back. Maybe you've realized you deserve more. Maybe you've understood that insisting on someone who doesn't know how to stay is a cruel way to hurt yourself. Even so, something in you still feels. And that doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you foolish, it makes you human. You loved and you still love in some way. But you love with more clarity. You love knowing the limits. You love with longing, but without promise. This person distanced themselves, but they left doors open. And they hide behind excuses. They hide behind pride. They hide from themselves. And still this person desires your return. With fear, with pride, with confusion. This person wants you back. But they want it without asking. They want it without exposing themselves. They want it without humbling themselves. And that's why they do nothing. They remain in silence, waiting for you to break the cycle once more. As you did before, will you? This person still feels, but they can't show it. This person still thinks, but they don't have the courage to speak. This person still wants, but they don't know how to go back. And they stay, right there, in the same place as always, hiding behind their absence, using the lack of presence as a shield, while inside, they continue to call for you. Have you ever been through this? Tell me in the comments. If this resonated with you, comment, "I needed to hear this." Drop a heart if you still feel something that no longer has a name. This person is still there, even though time has passed, even with other stories that have come, even as the daily routine has filled all the spaces, because not everything becomes the past just because it wasn't lived to the end. Some things get stuck in the middle, trapped where the feelings stopped, trapped where the words weren't spoken, trapped where the gaze asked for help, and you no longer knew how to provide it. This person is there, at that point where you realized you couldn't carry it all alone anymore. At that moment, when you also wanted to be seen. At the exact time when you understood that love cannot be a one-way street, you gave yourself, and you lost yourself a little, made concessions that no one saw, swallowed your desires, hidden your pains, put aside what was crying out for now. But eventually the body stops, the soul freezes, the will dries up. And it was then that this person felt the absence, not of your physical presence, but of the weight of your affection, of the care, of the commitment, the kind of presence that doesn't come around again. This person misses you in a way they'll never admit, because to admit it, they would have to acknowledge the mistake. They would have to turn back time. They would have to ask for forgiveness, and not everyone has the strength to face themselves like that. So this person waits, in silence, in a kind of waiting that doesn't shout, but wears you down, that doesn't appear, but consumes, and you feel it. You know this person still wants, because when the bond is real, it continues to exist even without contact, even without words, even without presence. This feeling that still pulses within you, this intuition that refuses to die, this isn't an invention. It's perception. It's your consciousness reading what wasn't said. It's you feeling what hasn't been named. This person tries to move on but can't, because everything that came after came without you. And no matter how hard this person tries to fill the void, what remains does not dissolve, because what you both experienced wasn't ordinary, it wasn't shallow, it wasn't forgettable, and what stays inside doesn't fade away with distractions. This person tries to live, but stumbles on the memories, remains quiet in the face of reminders that are still fresh in the body, even if they're old in the calendar. And you feel when you wake up wanting to say something and can't. You feel when you see her name pop up in places that don't even relate. You feel when your body shivers for no reason, when your chest tightens, when the longing hits without warning. Because this connection hasn't ended. It's just been silenced by fear, by pride, by confusion, but it was never undone. This person is still waiting for you, but you're no longer the same. And maybe that's why you'll never return. Or maybe this is when everything starts to change. Because pain, when truly felt, turns into movement. And silence, when it gets tiring, turns into momentum. And sometimes all a story needs is someone brave enough to look again, but look for real, without expectations, without masks, without guilt. This person is still at the same point, hoping you'll break time somehow, with a gesture, with a signal, with a word. Maybe you'll never speak again. Maybe you'll shield yourself from the pain that remains. Maybe you've already learned to be enough on your own. Maybe you don't need to go back anymore. But if one day you decide to say something, this person will listen, even if they don't respond, even if they don't show it, even if they hide, because when the feeling is real, the body hears before the ear. The soul perceives before the mind, and this person, even in silence, has never stopped waiting for you, has never stopped wondering what might have happened. If only I had stayed, if only I had spoken up, if only I had insisted a little more. Do you feel this? If so, comment below, I feel that too, or just leave a heart. I'll know you're feeling it. This person not only misses you, this person carries guilt. Not the kind of guilt they confess, the kind that escapes in their gaze, in the rush to appear okay, in the excess of distraction, in the rigidity that surfaces when they hear your name. This person knows, they know they left before saying goodbye. They know they left questions unanswered. They know they hurt you the moment they chose silence, but they didn't have the courage. They didn't know how to be clear. They didn't know how to be whole, because they always knew that if they were honest with what they felt, they wouldn't be able to walk away. This person had to pretend to be strong to avoid facing their own fears. They pushed you away with excuses that even they didn't believe. They built barriers that weren't necessary. They used their own confusion as an excuse to run away. They ran from you, but more than that, they ran from themselves. You noticed. You felt this escape in a raw way, because when the other person runs and is still present, the pain becomes a maze. You didn't know what to do anymore. Whether to insist, whether to let go, whether to speak, whether to be silent. You became trapped between wanting and exhaustion, between love and limits. And when you decided to respect your own pain, this person left, as if they were just waiting for this, for you to give up first so they could claim it wasn't their fault. But it was. It always was. And this person knows, they know so much that they haven't been able to live in peace since then. This person still revisits conversations, rereads messages, remembers what you said, and what they didn't have the courage to respond. Remembers how you looked at them, how you stayed silent, waiting for them to open up, and how much they stayed quiet out of fear of feeling too much. This person still feels your presence. It doesn't matter who is around. No one else has taken the place you left. No conversation has held the same truth. No touch has brought the same security. This person tries to convince themselves that they did the right thing. But the absence they carry is proof that they were wrong, because those who are certain don't live in unrest. This person is restless, even without saying a word, even without showing it, even while pretending, and you feel it, because your perception is alive, because the bond between you two hasn't been erased, it has just receded, hidden, asleep. But it still exists, and sometimes it's as if this person is speaking to you mentally, as if they're calling to you from within, as if there's a silent communication between the two of you that has never stopped. Have you noticed this? That sudden urge to check your phone, to visit a place, to listen to a song without knowing why, that's them. It's this person, still pulsing somewhere inside you. Don't deceive yourself, it's not a coincidence. It's a connection that hasn't been broken. It's a bond that hasn't been undone. It's a story interrupted too much to be forgotten. This person is still waiting for you, even without admitting it, even hurt, even distant. They wait for you in their thoughts, in the absence, in the doubt, in the silence of the night, in the memory of touch, in the absence of what only you knew how to give. This person is still at the same point where everything stopped, waiting for something, not knowing what, not knowing how, not knowing if there's still time, if it still makes sense, if it can still be. Have you lived this? Comment here. I've been in this place. Or write what's still stuck inside. I'll read everything. This person moved away, but they're still waiting. Waiting for you to come back. Waiting for time to resolve things. Waiting for the pain to lessen. Waiting for, at some point, you to look again. And maybe they'll never admit this out loud. Maybe they'll pretend that everything is fine. Maybe they'll tell others that they've turned the page, but you know, you can feel it. There's a silence that screams. There's an absence that weighs heavy. There's a waiting that denies itself but never fades away. This person still carries everything, what they lived, what they didn't say, what they wanted to say, what they were afraid to feel. And maybe they're waiting for you right now, in silence, waiting for you. If this touched you, comment here. I needed to hear that. Leave a heart so I know you're with me on this journey. Comment below. Have you ever experienced this kind of distance? Do you feel like someone is still waiting for you? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. Someone who needs to realize that silence isn't always the end. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, because this conversation doesn't end here. There's much more on the way. And you'll notice. And of course, leave a like if this resonated with you. Show me that it's worth continuing to dig deep. See you in the next one.